Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 191 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where there are more than enough of these filthy horse boys to mop up our lot on the flat.
That sounds so strange when it's not said by an orc.
Doesn't it?
But hey, look, we got reinforcements in the forest this time, so I'm sure that's going to help.
I'm sure it will. I mean, it helps them, right? Right.
Yeah, exactly, right. As we'll see, it goes
Yes.
great for them. Anyway, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I am Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark. And I'm here with the man of the West who can see the night breeze, or so it's said, Alan Sisto.
Or so it is said. Only if I'm wearing my reading glasses, though, Sean, I have to admit.
Well, that's all right. We'll allow it.
Otherwise, the night breeze is just as blurry as everything else. So, folks, today we're going to be talking about the third and last part of the Urak-Hai, the third chapter in Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. This is when the Rohirrim end this little party once and for all.
It's a rager until the cops show up.
That's
sure.
right. This is when your parents come home early and you're like,
Yeah.
oh no,
Yeah.
hide the beer.
Exactly. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And have a whole lot of fun along the way. So we're really glad you've joined us.
We are. And we hope you'll be glad you joined us as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, we want to start with a very special This Week in Tolkien History.
I can hear the bells jingling now. Can you?
Silver bells.
I've been hearing them for weeks, actually, by the time this comes out.
I know, that's true. Mm-hmm.
So this episode is releasing on December 20th, and Alan and I are very much in a festive holiday mood here at the podcast. As you may know, the Centenary edition of the Letters from Father Christmas was recently released. It's a beautiful volume, Alan. I know you got yours. It's gorgeous.
I got the deluxe edition, of course.
Oh, of course you did, yeah. All right, I got the regular one. That's a little rich for my blood, but I got the regular one is gorgeous. I mean, it
really is.
Really nice hardcover binding, large format. You can really see the pictures.
You really can, and that's such a huge part of it.
Yeah. And, it's been a few years since we talked about Letters from Father Christmas. So
our first season, right?
Yeah, so it's been, 4 years? And so we thought today we'd do something a little different and use our intro segment today to revisit Letters from Father Christmas. And today we're gonna read some of our favorite letters again. Alan, why don't you start us out?
I'd be happy to. I'm going to start with the one from December 21st, 1927. So John would have just turned 10, Michael 7, and Christopher was just barely 3. Priscilla, of course, wasn't even a glint in the eye of J.R.R. or Edith.
Right.
And here's the letter. My dear people, there seem to get more and more of you every year. I get poorer and poorer. Still, I hope that I have managed to bring you all something you wanted, though not everything you asked for. Michael and Christopher. I haven't heard from John this year. I suppose he's growing too big and won't even hang up his stocking soon. It has been so bitter at the North Pole lately that the North Polar Bear has spent most of the time asleep and has been less use than usual this Christmas. Everybody does sleep most of the time here in winter, especially Father Christmas. The North Pole became colder. By the way, I should just say, for those of you who have never read the Father Christmas letters and who didn't listen to our episode from 4 seasons ago, that's the voice of North Polar Bear himself. So it's Father Christmas first, and that other voice is that of North Polar Bear.
Yeah. And by the way, I should just point out, if you haven't read Letters from Father Christmas, North Polar Bear is one of Tolkien's greatest inventions. It's one of the best characters he ever came up with. Period.
Really, truly. Certainly the funniest character he's ever come up with.
Hands down.
It really reminds you that Tolkien had a killer sense of humor.
Yeah. He's hilarious. He's adorable. He's a hero.
And he's a mighty bear, too, as we'll
is.
find out in one of your letters.
Yeah. Anyway, back to it, sir.
So, Father Christmas says that the North Pole became colder than any cold thing ever has been. And when the North Polar Bear put his nose against it, it took the skin off. Now it's bandaged with red flannel. Why did he? I don't know. But he's always putting his nose where it oughtn't to be. Into my cupboards, for instance. Well, that's because I am hungry.
I'm sorry, I need to interject there because I want to make it very clear to everybody that Father Christmas is talking about a literal North Pole.
Yes.
The North Pole became colder than any cold thing. And
it's a metal pole located at the north of the world.
It's an actual pole. And North Polar Bear put his nose against it, and it took the skin off, just like the kid in A Christmas Story.
Triple dog
in his
dare you,
tongue.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Right, yeah.
That's exactly right. That's a good point. I'd forgotten about that. Again, people not familiar with it, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Father Christmas goes on and says, also, it has been very dark here since winter began. We haven't seen the sun, of course, for 3 months, but there are no northern lights this year. You remember the awful accident last year? There will be none again until the end of 1928. The North Polar Bear has got his cousin and distant friend, the Great Bear, to shine extra bright for us. And this week he's talking, of course, the constellation.
Right, exactly. Ursa
Yeah, I
Major.
love that.
It's brilliant.
It really is. And this week I've hired a comet to do my packing by, but it doesn't work as well. The North Polar Bear has not really been any more sensible this year. I have been perfectly sensible, and have learnt to write with a pen in my mouth instead of a paintbrush. Yesterday, he was snowballing the snowman in the garden, and pushed him over the edge of the cliff, so that he fell into my sleigh at the bottom and broke lots of things. One of them was himself. I used some of what was left of him to paint my white picture. We shall have to make ourselves a new gardener when we are less busy. It's so hard to read this with a straight face. It's so funny.
Yeah, that's great.
It is. The Man of the Moon paid me a visit the other day, a fortnight ago exactly. He often does about this time, as he gets lonely in the moon, and we make him a nice little plum pudding. He's so fond of things with plums in. His fingers were cold, as usual, and the North Polar Bear made him play snapdragons to warm them. Of course, he burnt them, and then he licked them, and then he liked the brandy, and then the bear gave him lots more, and he went fast asleep on the sofa. Then I went down into the cellars to make crackers, and he rolled off the sofa, and the wicked bear pushed him underneath and forgot all about him. He can never be away a whole night from the moon, but he was this time. I have never been expected to look after the Man of the Moon before. I was very nice to him, and he was very comfy under the sofa.
Yeah, it's so great. Again, like the Man in the Moon shows up in the Adventures of Tom Bombadil, shows up in the poem and in the Prancing Pony in Lord of the Rings. It's just so great. The continuity, the weird. I mean, it's not continuous, but there's just weird little bits of continuity here and
little
there.
Connections here and there. It's real great.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the snowman, he wasn't broken then, rushed in out of the garden next day just after tea time and said the moon was going out. The dragons had come out and were making an awful smoke and smother. We rolled him out and shook him, and he simply whizzed back. But it was ages before he got things quite cleared up. I believe he had to let loose one of his simply terrificalist freezing magics before he could drive the dragons back into their holes, and that's why it has got so cold down here. The polar bear only laughs when I tell him it's his fault, and he curls up on my hearthrug and won't do anything but snore. My messengers told me that you have somebody from Iceland staying with you. That is not so far from where I live, and nearly as cold. People don't hang up stockings there, and I usually pass by in a hurry, though I sometimes pop down and leave a thing or two for their very jolly Christmas trees. My usual way down is through Norway, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, and then back through Germany, northern France, Belgium, and so into England. And on the way home I pass over the sea, and sometimes Iceland, and I can see the twinkling lights faint in the valleys under their mountains. But I go by quick, as my reindeer gallop as hard as they can there. They always say they're frightened a volcano or a geyser will go off underneath them. This must be all. I've written you a very long letter this year, as there was nothing to draw but dark and snow and stars. Love to you all, and happiness next year. Your loving Father Christmas. I love this letter.
It's wonderful. It
really is. There are some great reasons. Of course, first off, and most obvious, is North Polar Bear. All the letters with NPB are great.
Yeah.
But I love the ones where he literally interrupts Father Christmas in the letter. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's a wonderful little technique, and it just adds so much character to the story.
It does, and we'll see lots more of that as we go through some of our favorites.
Lots more. Yeah.
He's not the only one.
No, he's not the only one. The second reason I love this, who doesn't love the word terrificalist? I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that. His simply terrificalist freezing magics. I've got to find a way to use that. I also found the little guilt trip that Tolkien puts on his son John, who's 10 at this time, remember, for not writing to Father Christmas. I find that brilliant.
Yes. You think you're too old for this stuff.
That's right.
Father Christmas is still paying attention.
Then maybe you won't get anything in your stocking then.
Right.
And then I love it because this is very much a dad thing. He gives him a geography lesson at the end.
Of course, yeah.
That's phenomenal.
So creative, though. I mean, just to imagine Father Christmas's flight path. I almost called him Santa because I'm an American.
Well, right.
Yeah, just to imagine his flight path, it's great. And yeah, it's so much fun. I really love almost all these letters, but
they really are great. Yeah.
There's so many fun little touches that like don't need to be there, but they are. Like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the man in the moon is fond of things with plums in.
Right. And he likes brandy, apparently.
Yeah. Apparently. Sleeps under the sofa sometimes. Oh, it's so great.
Sleeping it off. Yeah, I love it. So much fun. Well, what about your first letter, Sean?
All right. Well, my first letter is going to be the one from December 23rd, 1932. And by the way, I'm trying not to repeat too many of the letters that we did in our episode in season 1. I know you're trying to do the same.
I think we still did.
I think we still did. We both repeated some of our own, and I think I might have repeated one of yours, but we're trying. The reality is there's not that many of them, and they're all great. So it's
they're
really
all
hard
great.
to pick.
Yeah, that is true.
So anyway, December 23rd, 1932. And so at this time, John was 15. So we know he's probably checked out.
Oh, yeah. He had checked out 5 years before.
Right, exactly. Michael's 12, Christopher's 8, and Priscilla's 3. And this letter continues the adventures of North Polar Bear. Now, this is a really long one. I'm not going to read it from the beginning. I'll just kind of recap the beginning where Father Christmas greets the children, and he starts out telling them how one day North Polar Bear went for a walk, and he just disappeared.
Right.
Gone for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later, Cave Bear, a lot of bears in the North Pole.
Yeah.
Cave Bear comes to Father Christmas's house and tells him what happened to North Polar Bear, and I'll pick up there.
All right.
He found a hole in the side of a hill and went inside because it was snowing. He slipped down a long slope, and lots of rock fell after him, and he found he could not climb up or get out again. But almost at once he smelt goblin, and became interested, and started to explore. Not very wise, for of course goblins can't hurt him, but their caves are very dangerous. Naturally, he soon got quite lost, and the goblins shut off all their lights, and made queer noises and false echoes. Goblins are to us very much what rats are to you, only worse because they are very clever, and only better because there are in these parts very few. We thought there were none left. Long ago we had great trouble with them. That was about 1453, I believe. But we got the help of the gnomes, who are their greatest enemies, and cleared them out. Anyway, there was poor old Polar Bear lost in the dark all among them, and all alone until he met Mr. Cave Bear, who lives there. Cave Bear can see pretty well in the dark, and he offered to take Polar Bear to his private back door. So they set off together. But the goblins were very excited and angry. Polar Bear had boxed one or two flat that came and poked him in the dark, and had said some very nasty things to them all. And they enticed him away by imitating Cave Bear's voice, which of course they know very well. So Polar Bear got into a frightful dark part, all full of different passages, and he lost Cave Bear, and Cave Bear lost him. I'll skip a bit, brother.
I appreciate that.
So they find North Polar Bear in the Goblin Caves, and he's famished. He's been down there for 2 weeks. And while they're down there, they discover some ancient goblin writing on the wall, because
of course.
Tolkien.
Yeah.
And they find some human cave paintings down there, and they eventually go back to Father Christmas's house. But the feud with the goblins goes on, and then we get this bit. Last Saturday we went down and found nearly everything had disappeared out of the main cellar. Imagine my state of mind. Nothing hardly to send to anybody, and too little time to get or make enough new stuff. North Polar Bear said, I smell goblins strong. Of course it was obvious. They love mechanical toys, though they quickly smash them, and want more and more and more. And practically all the Hornby things had gone. Eventually we found a large hole, but not big enough for us, leading to a tunnel, behind some packing cases in the west cellar. As you will expect, we rushed off to find Cave Bear, and we went back to the caves. We soon understood the queer noises. It was plain the goblins long ago had burrowed a tunnel from the caves to my old home, which was not so far from the end of their hills, and had stolen a good many things. We found some things more than 100 years old, even a few parcels still addressed to your great-grandpeople. But they had been very clever and not too greedy, and I had not found out. Ever since I moved, they must have been busy burrowing all the way to my cliff, boring, banging, and blasting as quietly as they could. At last they reached my new cellars, and the sight of the Hornby things was too much for them. They took all they could. By the way, I love that little bit of alliteration there, the boring, banging, and blasting.
Oh, I know. Isn't that great?
Of course, it is Tolkien, so he's going to do that stuff. I dare say they were also still angry with the polar bear. Also, they thought we couldn't get at them. But I sent my patent green luminous smoke down the tunnel, and polar bear blew and blew it with our enormous kitchen bellows. They simply shrieked and rushed out the other cave end. But there were red gnomes there. I had specially sent for them. A few of the real old families are still in Norway. They captured hundreds of goblins and chased many more out into the snow, which they hate. We made them show us where they had hidden things, or bring them all back again, and by Monday we had got practically everything back. The gnomes are still dealing with the goblins, and promise there won't be one left by New Year. But I am not so sure. They will crop up again in a century or so, I expect. And it goes on for a bit more from there, but that's where I'll stop, because it's a really long letter, but it's so epic in its scope. I mean, it's like something out of the Legendarium. You get, I love this idea of the ancient animosity between the gnomes and goblins, because, hello, first age, right?
Right.
You get ancient languages. You even get this little reference to the coming of men when they find these mannish cave paintings on the wall.
That's right.
And so much of this feels like The Hobbit, when you're talking about like the goblin caves and things like that. I find that this is a really great example of Tolkien dipping into his own Legendarium. Remember that? I think it was a quote from John Ratliff about Tolkien dipping into his own homebrew, right?
Yes.
For inspiration. And, he did that in The Hobbit. And we can see that he did that here too. It must have been the kind of thing he did anytime he was writing for his kids. Just like, let me pull some good ideas I have for this grown-up mythology that I'm working on, but I'm going to put it in a format that my kids can appreciate. And I love that.
Man, that's good stuff.
And he creates this. I mean, this mythology could have easily been expanded to be as big as Middle-earth. If he wanted to write a series of children's books at the North Pole, he could have done it, and it would have been just as epic.
Oh, he could have, and it would have been great. Filled with amazing toys, too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I actually did a little bit while you were reading. I researched because I didn't know what the Hornby toys were. The Hornby.
I'm glad you did.
It turns out they were model train that was very popular back in the late 20s, early 30s, mostly late 20s, I think, because from what I could gather, at least the U.S. branch of it obviously struggled and failed really after 1929 with the stock market crash. But they made model trains, electric model trains. That one of the earliest ones.
Very cool. That's another cool thing about the letters from Father Christmas. You find out what kind of toys Tolkien's kids were interested in.
Yeah. What was the bricks? There was something.
The pick-a-bricks, right?
Pick-a-bricks. Yeah. That was great stuff. It's neat to know what the kids liked and what was popular. And brilliant.
It's a great little slice of life from the Tolkien family. But ultimately, when we're talking about the mythology here, this is almost like the Book of Lost Tales to a later letter, which is like the Hobbit or Lord of the Rings.
That's true.
But I'll get to that letter in a minute. For now, I want you to go ahead and pick your second of three.
Okay. Well, can I just say how hard it was to pick just three? I mean, the letters are all, they're funny, they're sweet, they're clever, and most have just incredible artwork from Tolkien. I mean, if for no other reason that you get this book, check it out for the artwork.
Yeah.
Stunning stuff.
Funny, beautiful artwork. And funny artwork.
Oh, seeing the North Polar Bear standing and hurling goblins around is it's brilliant.
Yeah. Falling
or
down
sliding
the stairs.
down the stairs. That's exactly
flat on the stairs.
Yeah. Oh, man. The next letter that I chose is from December 23rd, 1936. So by this point, he's really only writing to two. Christopher, who's 12, and Priscilla, who's 7. So really, maybe he's only writing to one. And one of the reasons I chose this is because we're introduced to another new character. So Father Christmas starts out, "My dear children, I am sorry I cannot send you a long letter to thank you for yours, but I'm sending you a picture which will explain a good deal. It is a good thing your changed lists arrived before these awful events, or I could not have done anything about it. I do hope you will like what I am bringing, and will forgive any mistakes, but I hope nothing will still be wet. I'm still so shaky and upset. I'm getting one of my elves to write a bit more about things. I send very much love to you all." Well, that elf is named Ilbereth. Not Elbereth, but Ilbereth.
Right.
And I'm going to read what Ilbereth, who completes the rest of the letter. "Father Christmas says you will want to hear some news. Polar Bear has been quite good, or had been, though he has been rather tired. So has Father Christmas. I think the Christmas business is getting rather too much for them. So a lot of us, red and green elves, have gone to live permanently at Cliff House and be trained in the packing business. It was Polar Bear's idea. He also invented the number system, so that every child that Father Christmas deals with has a number, and we elves learn them all by heart, and all the addresses. That saves a lot of writing. So many children have the same name that every packet used to have the address as well. Polar Bear said, I'm going to have a record year and help Father Christmas to get so forward we can have some fun ourselves on Christmas Day. We all worked hard, and you will be surprised to hear that every single parcel was packed and numbered by Saturday, December 19th. Then Polar Bear said, I'm tired out. I'm going to have a hot bath and go to bed early. Well, you can guess what happened. Father Christmas was taking a last look round in the English delivery room about 10 o'clock, when water poured through the ceiling and swamped everything. It was soon 6 inches deep on the floor. Polar Bear had simply got into the bath with both taps running and gone fast asleep with a hind paw on the overflow. He'd been asleep 2 hours when we woke him. Father Christmas was really angry, but Polar Bear only said, I did have a jolly dream. I dreamt I was diving off a melting iceberg and chasing seals.
That's what polar bears would dream about, right?
That is a jolly dream if you're a polar bear.
Yeah.
He said later, when he saw the damage, well, there is one thing. Those children at North Pole Road, Oxford, he always says that, may lose some of their presents, but they will have a letter worth hearing this year. They can see a joke, even if none of you can. That made Father Christmas angrier, and Polar Bear said, well, draw a picture of it and ask them if it is funny or not. So Father Christmas has. But he has begun to think it funny, although very annoying himself now we have cleared up the mess and got the English presents repacked again, just in time. We are all rather tired, so please excuse scrawly writing. Yours, Ilbereth, Secretary to Father Christmas. Very sorry. Been busy. Can't find that alphabet. We look after Christmas and post it. Yours, Polar Bear. Now, look, the stories with North Polar Bear are all hilarious, but this has got to be one of my favorites. It just rings true. I mean, okay, not the massive flooding. I've never had that happen right before Christmas, but the idea that you finally get ahead of things and think, I can finally rest and take a break, and then bam, something terrible happens. And really, the best way to deal with it is just to laugh about it. I love this. It's great. Yeah.
Well, and just, North Polar Bear being accident prone. That's the kind of thing I would do,
Falling asleep with a paw on the overflow.
Right. I love it. It's like Murphy's Law, right?
Yes.
Falls asleep, both taps running, and his paw is on the overflow. Everything that could go wrong does.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed when you were reading just now, there's a blink and you miss it joke in there when he says those children at North Pole Road.
Remember,
the Tolkiens lived at Northmoor Road.
That's
Oxford.
Right. They didn't live at North Pole Road. They lived at Northmoor Road.
Right.
That's great.
Isn't that awesome that,
North
Father
Polar
Christmas
Bear.
thinks of...
Oh, yeah, that would have been North Polar Bear because he says they can
right.
see a joke even if none of you can.
You're right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. So that was North Polar Bear who said that. So of course he's gonna mix it up.
Yeah.
He's going to put it in terms that he's familiar with, being a North Polar Bear. He thinks it's North Pole Road. I love that.
Yeah, it is great.
And just Ilbereth, the secretary, is one of my favorite. I mean, they're all my favorite characters, I guess. I feel like I keep saying that.
That's true.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he really is. I think you might have some Ilbereth quotes in one of yours, right?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I think my last one. So,
well, get on to your second or we'll never get to our thirds.
Indeed. Well, my second letter is from the year after my previous letter. So this is December 21st, 1933. So earlier than your last, Alan. I think for this one, John would have been 16.
Right.
So off doing something else. Michael's 13, Christopher's 9, and Priscilla's 4. And this is the one I was hinting at earlier that kind of takes the epic story from the first one about the goblins and the gnomes, and it comes back to it. It really revisits the mythology. This is like this is the Hobbit to the Book of Lost Tales of the previous letter. And North Polar Bear writes in it, so that's always great.
Yeah.
And just with the follow through on that feud, I just think it's a lot of fun. And I do want to point out, so this one, you talked about this one in episode 28 in season 1. So this was one of your favorites at the time. I didn't talk about it then, but
all right,
I'm going to do it now because I can.
It's a great power.
Yeah. My dears, another Christmas. And I almost thought at one time in November that there would not be one this year. There would be the 25th of December, of course, but nothing from your old great-great etc. grandfather at the North Pole. Goblins. The worst attack we have had for centuries. They have been fearfully wild and angry ever since we took all their stolen toys off them last year and dosed them with green smoke. Right? He goes right back to it. I love it. You saw part 1. Now here's part 2, kids.
That's
Here's the
right,
sequel.
yeah.
You remember the red gnomes promised to clear all of them out. There was not one to be found in any hole or cave by New Year's Day. But I said they would crop up again, in a century or so. They have not waited so long. They must have gathered their nasty friends from mountains all over the world, and been busy all the summer while we were at our sleepiest. This time we had very little warning. Soon after All Saints' Day, Polar Bear got very restless. He now says he smelt nasty smells, but as usual he did not say anything. He says he did not want to trouble me. He really is a nice old thing, and this time he absolutely saved Christmas. He took to sleeping in the kitchen with his nose towards the cellar door, opening on the main stairway down into my big stores. One night, just about Christopher's birthday, I woke up suddenly. There was squeaking and spluttering in the room, and a nasty smell. In my own best green and purple room that I had just had done up most beautifully. I caught sight of a wicked little face at the window. Then I really was upset, for my window is high up above the cliff, and that meant there were bat-riding goblins about, which we haven't seen since the Goblin War in 1453 that I told you about. I was only just quite awake when a terrific din began far downstairs, in the store cellars. It would take too long to describe, so I have tried to draw a picture of what I saw when I got down, after treading on a goblin on the mat. Only there was more like 1,000 goblins than 15. But you could hardly expect me to draw 1,000. So Father Christmas is now responding to
I know,
Polar Bear
the inline
in the
responses is brilliant.
great.
Yeah.
Polar Bear was squeezing, squashing, trampling, boxing, and kicking goblins sky high, and roaring like a zoo. And the goblins were yelling like engine whistles.
I love it.
He was splendid. Say no more. I enjoyed it immensely. By the way, this story is accompanied by the greatest picture in the entire Letters from Father Christmas
no doubt
volume.
about that, yeah.
North Polar Bear basically plowing through goblins like Beorn at the Battle of Five Armies.
Yeah,
I mean, he's throttling them in his hands, he's kicking them, he's stomping.
Throwing them around the room. Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Back to the letter. Well, it is a long story. The trouble lasted for over a fortnight, and it began to look as if I should never be able to get my sleigh out this year. The goblins had set part of the stores on fire and captured several gnomes, who sleep down there on guard, before Polar Bear and some more gnomes came in, and killed 100 before I arrived. Even when we had put the fire out and cleared the cellars and house, I can't think what they were doing in my room unless they were trying to set fire to my bed. The trouble went on. The ground was black with goblins under the moon when we looked out, and they had broken up my stables and gone off with the reindeer. I had to blow my golden trumpet, which I have not done for many years, to summon all my friends. There were several battles. Every night they used to attack and set fire in the stores, before we got the upper hand, and I am afraid quite a lot of my dear elves got hurt. Fortunately, we have not lost much except my best string, gold and silver, and packing papers and holly boxes. I am very short of these, and I have been very short of messengers. Lots of my people are still away. I hope they will come back safe, chasing the goblins out of my land, those that are left alive. They have rescued all my reindeer. We are quite happy and settled again now, and feel much safer. It really will be centuries before we get another goblin trouble. Thanks to Polar Bear and the gnomes, there can't be very many left at all. And again, it goes on for a few more paragraphs, again, it's just great to see North Polar Bear's interjections, the fantastic illustration, this wonderful continuing saga of the North Pole versus the goblins.
Yeah. The flying goblins on the bat thing. Yeah,
the flying goblins on the bats. That's amazing. Yeah. It's fantastic. Again, I say this every time we talk about this. I feel like I should be doing more for my kids.
Yeah, that's true. If there's nothing else that Father Christmas letters will do for you, it's make you feel like a terribly inadequate parent. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And also, I have to point out, he mentions the cellar door.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, the cellar door. I love it.
Taking us back to English and Welsh, and cellar door being a beautiful
the most
phrase.
beautiful phrase.
I love that. Yeah. Great stuff.
Well, my last letter is his letter to Priscilla in 1938. She's 9 at this point, so it's just to her. The letter itself is short but sweet. Father Christmas apologizes for not having had the time to draw a big picture and says he's sending some rhymes instead. So now if you feel inadequate because you don't write Father Christmas letters and because you don't do art, now you can feel guilty for not doing poetry.
For not writing poems either. Yeah.
He also gives what can only be called a dad list of all the stuffed animals that Priscilla has. He says, "Give my love to your bingos and all the other 60 or more, especially Raggles and Predley and Tinker and Taylor and Jubilee and Snowball."
60 or more.
Yeah, he's spoiled this little girl, hasn't he? "I hope you will go on writing to me for a long while yet." You know, that last line really resonates. This is his youngest child at 9. The others are all far too old to be writing Father Christmas.
Yeah.
He would end up writing to her for 4 more years. But, you know, I picked this for the awful, but also awfully clever Christmas poem that he wrote. I can't read the whole thing. It is quite long, but I have chosen some of the more fun stanzas. And what you don't see is the breaking of the lines, and you'll hear it as I speak in Polar Bear's voice, but the rhyming is terrible on purpose. It is brilliant. So Here we go. I'm going to do my very best.
All right.
"Again this year, my dear Priscilla, when you're asleep upon your pillow." Bad rhyme, that's beaten you. "Beside your bed, old Father Christmas." The English language has no rhyme to Father Christmas. That's why I'm not very good at making verses. But what I find a good deal worse is that girls' and boys' names won't rhyme either, and bother, either won't rhyme neither. So please forgive me, dear Priscilla, if I pretend you rhyme with pillow. She won't. North Polar Bear just rocks. Oh, man. So Father Christmas continues. He's just not going to quit. "As I was saying, beside your bed, old Father Christmas, afraid that any creak or hiss must..." How's that? "Out!" I mean, just in the middle of the line, turns to North Polar Bear. "Hey, I just rhymed with Christmas."
NPB, yeah.
I just rhymed Christmas with hiss must, which doesn't rhyme really, but is pretty close.
No.
Oh, man. "Afraid that any creak or hiss must wake you up, will in a twinkling fill..." Now we have a change of voice. It changes from Father Christmas to Ilbereth. After "will in a twinkling" to "fill up your stocking, I've an inkling that it belongs, in fact, to Pater, but never mind. At 12 or later he will arrive and hopes once more that he is chosen from his store." I did it. North Polar Bear, I chose it from the store. "The things you want. You're 9:30. She is not a clock, but still I hope you'll drop a line." It's a comedy sketch in a poem. It's great.
Brilliant. It is. Yeah.
"You're 9:30, but she's not a clock, but still I hope you'll drop a line for some years yet, and won't forget old Father Christmas and his pet, the North Polar Bear, and polar cubs as fat as little butter tubs, and snowboys and elves, in fact the whole of my household up near the pole." And a bit later, because I'm skipping some, "You all will wonder what's the news, if all has gone well, and if not, who's to blame, and whether Polar Bear has earned a mark, good, bad, or fair, for his behavior since last winter. Well, first he trod upon a splinter." Just rhyming nonsense. It was a nail. Rusty, too. "And went on crutches in November, and then one cold day in December he burnt his nose and singed his paws upon the kitchen grate because, without the help of tongs, he tried to roast hot chestnuts. Wow, he cried, I never did. And used a pound of butter best to cure the burns. He would not rest. I was not given a chance. But on the 23rd he went and climbed up on the roof. He meant to clear the snow away that choked his chimney up. Of course he poked his legs right through the tiles, and snow in tons fell on his bed below." It keeps just going like this, just this hilarious rhyming nonsense, including a frankly troubling list of things that NPB has eaten, written by Ilbereth.
Yes.
You'll have to do that yourself because it kind of makes me throw up in my mouth a little. But then NPB jumps in himself. "Absolute rot. I have not got a pain in my pot. Rude fellow. I stick to the sweet, which is why, as all know, I am so sweet myself, you thinuous elf. Goodbye." He means fatuous. "No, I don't. You're not fat, but thin and silly." Just
Thinuous versus fatuous. I love that.
Oh, man,
that's
it's
so
brilliant,
great.
brilliant, brilliant stuff. I love it. North Polar Bear, Ilbereth, and the rhyming. I mean, the
rhyming's
genius of these terrible rhymes.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, you have to be a really good poet to write poetry that bad, you know?
You really do. Yeah. Yeah. I love the Father Christmas and that any creek or hiss must is just
That's brilliant.
brilliant.
I especially love North Polar Bear constantly piping in with,
Oh,
that never happened.
yeah.
It wasn't a splinter. It was a rusty nail. I
Right.
never burned my fingers on chestnuts. You know,
I wasn't given a chance to rest. I didn't cry out. Yeah.
Right. I love it. It's because it's just like, obviously Father Christmas is just making up this poem, we think.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make it rhyme. Polar Bear's like, I didn't do this.
That didn't happen.
Stop
like
it.
That.
That is libel, sir.
Making up this. You will be hearing from my lawyers.
Right.
Oh, man. It is great stuff.
That's great. Well, and I seem to recall that was one you read back in episode 28.
Yeah, just a little part of it. I think I read just NPB's part about absolute rot. Yeah.
Maybe so, yeah. And look, with good reason, because that is a fantastic one.
It is.
And honestly, I already picked one of your old ones, and I'm picking one of my old ones next. I'm super predictable here.
Fair enough.
But my last letter is from Christmas 1937. So if you want to fit this into the sort of the overall timeline of Tolkien's life, this was right after The Hobbit had been published.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right.
Now, this one starts off with a greeting to Christopher and Priscilla. So Christopher's 13, Priscilla's 8. And it goes on for a little bit before it gets brilliant. And where it really gets brilliant is when we have another appearance from Ilbereth, and, of course, another appearance from North Polar Bear.
Of course.
Oh, and also Father Christmas says he almost sent the kids copies of The Hobbit, which is hilarious because there's probably some of them around the house already.
I'm sure there are, yeah.
But let's go ahead and pick it up with Ilbereth and his buddy, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
These guys get along better than Uglúk and Grishnákh, but they still bicker a bit.
Yeah, there's still at least a rivalry there, yeah.
Dear children, I am Ilbereth. I have written to you before. I am finishing for Father Christmas. Shall I tell you about my pictures? Polar Bear and Valkatuka and Paksu are always lazy after Christmas, or rather after the St. Stephen's Day party. Father Christmas is ringing for breakfast in vain. Another day when Polar Bear, as usual, was late. Not true. Paksu threw a bath sponge full of icy water on his face. Polar Bear chased him all round the house and round the garden, and then forgave him, because he had not caught Paksu, but had found a huge appetite. We had terrible weather at the end of winter, and actually had rain. We could not go out for days. I have drawn Polar Bear and his nephews when they did venture out. Paksu and Valkatuka have never gone away. They like it so much that they have begged to stay. It was much too warm at the North Pole this year. A large lake formed at the bottom of the cliff, and left the North Pole standing on an island. I have drawn a view looking south, so the cliff is on the other side. It was about midsummer. The North Polar Bear, his nephews, and lots of polar cubs used to come and bathe. Also seals. North Polar Bear took to trying to paddle a boat or canoe, but he fell in so often that the seals thought he liked it, and used to get under the boat and tip it up. That made him annoyed. The sport did not last long, as the water froze again early in August. Then we began to think of this Christmas. In my picture, Father Christmas is dividing up the lists and giving me my special lot. You are in it. North Polar Bear, of course, always pretends to be managing everything. That's why he is pointing. But I am really listening to Father Christmas, and I am saluting him, not North Polar Bear. Rude little errand boy. We had a glorious bonfire and fireworks to celebrate the coming of winter and the beginning of real preparations. The snow came down very thick in November, and the elves and snowboys had several tobogganing half-holidays. The polar cubs were not good at it. They fell off, and most of them took to rolling or sliding down just on themselves. Today, but this is the best bit, I had just finished my picture, or I might have drawn it differently. And better. Polar Bear was being allowed to decorate a big tree in the garden, all by himself and a ladder. Suddenly I heard terrible growly, squealy noises. We rushed out to find Polar Bear hanging on the tree himself. You are not a decoration, said Father Christmas. Anyway, I am all right, he shouted. He was. We threw a bucket of water over him, which spoilt a lot of the decorations, but saved his fur. The silly old thing had rested the ladder against a branch instead of the trunk of the tree. Then he thought, I will just light the candles to see if they are working, although he was not told to. So he climbed to the tip of the ladder with a taper. Just then the branch cracked, the ladder slipped on the snow, and Polar Bear fell into the tree and caught on some wire, and his fur got caught on fire. Poor joke. Luckily he was rather damp, or he might have fizzled. I wonder if roast polar is good to eat. Not as good as well-spanked and fried elf.
Well spanked and fried. I'm sorry, that's just brilliant.
I want to serve roast polar bear and spanked and fried elf at Christmas this year. I don't know where I'm going to get it on short notice, but...
Yeah.
The last picture is imaginary and not very good, but I hope it will come true. It will if Polar Bear behaves. I hope you can read my writing. I tried to write like dear old Father Christmas, without the trembles, but I cannot do so well. I can write Elvish better. And then he actually writes Tengwar in the letter.
Yeah,
because
yeah, exactly.
He's writing Elvish, so it's actual Tengwar. And I have read, I haven't actually translated it myself, but I've read that the Tengwar actually spells out a very Merry Christmas to you all.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. Back to the letter, and then I'll wrap it up here. That is some, but Father Christmas says I write even that too spidery, and you would never read it. Love, Ilbereth. A big hug and lots of love. Enormous thanks for letters. I don't get many, though I work so hard. I am practicing new writing with lovely thick pen. Quicker than Arctic. I invented it. Ilbereth is cheeky. And he spells cheeky with one E.
Right.
How are the bingos? A Merry Christmas, North Polar Bear. What's not to love about that letter? I mean,
yeah.
you got again another great North Polar Bear story. Accident prone, catching his fur on fire, decorating
that is
the tree.
awesome. Yeah.
You got Ilbereth being cheeky or checky. You've got the bickering between them. You've got Tengwar and just that great dry sense of humor that we see throughout the Father Christmas letters. Seriously, folks, if our previous episode on this book and this has not encouraged you to get it, just go get it. You gotta go get it. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
That was so much fun. I love reading the letters from Father Christmas. So, folks, you know, there is the Centenary edition of the book. We have a link up on our library page where you can find it. So, like Sean said, just go get it and read it.
Yep.
Now, let's watch the orcs waste some arrows as we conclude the Urak-Hai. I'm going to go ahead and pick up exactly where we left off last time. Waiting is the worst part.
The waiting is the hardest part.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
The night was cold and still. All round the knoll on which the orcs were gathered, little watchfires sprang up, golden red in the darkness, a complete ring of them. They were within a long bow shot, but the riders did not show themselves against the light, and the orcs wasted many arrows shooting at the fires until Uglúk stopped them. The riders made no sound. Later in the night, when the moon came out of the mist, then occasionally they could be seen, shadowy shapes that glinted now and again in the white light as they moved in ceaseless patrol. "They'll wait for the sun, curse them," growled one of the guards. "Why don't we get together and charge through? What's old Uglúk think he's doing, I should like to know?" "I dare say you would," snarled Uglúk, stepping up from behind. "Meaning I don't think at all, eh? Curse you! You're as bad as the other rabble, the maggots and the apes of Lugburs. No good trying to charge with them. They just squeal and boat, and that are more than enough of these filthy horse boys to mop up our lot on the flat. There's only one thing those maggots can do. They can see like gimlets in the dark. But these whiteskins have better night eyes than most men from all I've heard. And don't forget their horses. They can see the night breeze, or so it's said. Still, there's one thing the fine fellows don't know. Malheur and his lads are in the forest, and they should turn up any time now." I'm glad I don't have to read Uglúk very much longer.
I know, man.
Woo, man, it's getting hard. All right.
Well, really picking up right where we left off last episode. I mean, the Rohirrim had just, they were ringing around the orcs, right?
Yeah.
And now it's nighttime, so there's all these
Ring
watchfires.
around the orc host.
There you go. Nice. Lovely. And so now it's nighttime, so there's watchfires popping up all around them, ringing them in.
Right.
And they're just in range, but there's no actual visible targets.
Right. It's like they're taunting them.
Yeah. The riders are patrolling. They're visible now and again in the moon.
But by then, Uglúk had told them to stop shooting as they were wasting all their arrows. So
right.
Nothing to shoot there. So then we get this conversation between a guard who didn't think he was about to have a conversation and Uglúk. The guard thinks waiting's a bad idea. We should just get together and charge through. And he's, old Uglúk, what's he think he's doing? I mean, it's just bad idea because, when you're talking about your boss.
Talking bad about the commanding officer. Yeah.
That's when he's right behind you.
Right.
You can see him now. Like he's talking to one of his mates. You don't see him in the lines here, but, the unwritten part is he's behind me, isn't he?
This was just chatter between the enlisted guys and the officer standing right behind him.
Right. And the guy's like, he's right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. So, Uglúk, after kind of giving him what for, look, we can't charge with the maggots, those are the northerners, or the apes of Lugbors. And on our own, we'd get wiped out by the cavalry on the flats. There's just no way with our numbers.
There's more than enough to do that.
There's 80 of us Urak-Hai if we eliminate the maggots and the apes.
Right.
So,
Yeah. But the maggots, as he calls them, the northerners, there is one thing that they're good at, and that is they can see well in the dark.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, seeing, how does he put it then? See like gimlets in the dark.
Yeah.
Well, gimlet as a noun typically has one of two meanings. It's either a small tool with a screw point, grooved shank, and cross handle for boring holes, or it's a cocktail made of sweetened lime juice and either gin or vodka. I think that might actually be what it is, but that last meaning is clearly irrelevant to the text. But
I will refrain from saying which one of those two I had heard of before you said that.
I'll give you two guesses, and one of them isn't the drink.
Yep.
Yeah. So coming from that first definition, we learned there's an adjective form that similarly means having that piercing or penetrating quality. It is a tool that's designed to bore holes. So you got to have that ability. Well, that adjective form then moves on to become something that if somebody is said to have a gimlet eye, then somebody has a piercing or watchful eye. So that's what we're talking about here, the ability to pierce the night with their watchful vision. That's what gimlets in the dark means here.
And what a descriptive adjective, or actually noun is the way it's used here, but what a descriptive comparison to use, right? Because it is like a pointed tool, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually really, really vivid, at least if you know what a gimlet is.
If you're not thinking that it's a cocktail made of lime juice and gin or vodka.
So the maggots, the northerners, do have really good night vision, but, that's not that much of an advantage when the men also have great night vision. And that seems to be the case. At least that's what Uglúk seems to think.
Mm-hmm.
But he does say, we've got some reinforcements coming from the forest. Mauhur.
Yeah, so the Isengarders are satisfied with this, but not the others, right? So now they got their watchers posted, but most of them are resting. They know that there's going to be battle when the sun comes up, or at least they think that's when the battle's going to happen. And then it gets dark again as the moon passed westward into thick cloud. I like that, and you're going to point out why I like that, aren't you?
Yeah, because in the last chapter, we actually saw Aragorn observe this exact same phenomenon. He said,
"Right,
halt we must once more, for see, even the moon is falling into gathering cloud."
Exactly. So these little touches that we see that help us to find the common points in the timeline.
Yeah, exactly. It's that interlacing, and we're seeing it. We're seeing the same event, the moon passing behind the cloud from these two different viewpoints, and we know.
Yeah.
Now we know where we are in the timeline, like you said.
That's right. So the riders come in and kill a few orcs in a stealthy fashion and fade away again. And Uglúk goes off to handle it, and that's where I'm going to have you pick up.
All right. Pippin and Merry sat up. Their guards, Isengarders, had gone with Uglúk. But if the hobbits had any thought of escape, it was soon dashed. A long, hairy arm took each of them by the neck and drew them close together. Dimly they were aware of Grishnákh's great head and hideous face between them. His foul breath was on their cheeks. He began to paw them and feel them. Pippin shuddered as hard, cold fingers groped down his back. "Well, my little ones," said Grishnákh in a soft whisper, "enjoying your nice rest, or not? A little awkwardly placed, perhaps, swords and whips on one side and nasty spears on the other. Little people should not meddle in affairs that are too big for them." His fingers continued to grope. There was a light like a pale but hot fire behind his eyes. The thought came suddenly into Pippin's mind, as if caught direct from the urgent thought of his enemy. Grishnákh knows about the ring. He's looking for it while Uglúk is busy. He probably wants it for himself. Cold fear was in Pippin's heart, yet at the same time he was wondering what use he could make of Grishnákh's desire. "I don't think you will find it that way," he whispered. "It isn't easy to find." "Find it," said Grishnákh. His fingers stopped crawling and gripped Pippin's shoulder. "Find what? What are you talking about, little one?" For a moment, Pippin was silent. Then suddenly in the darkness he made a noise in his throat. "Gollum! Gollum!" "Nothing, my precious," he added.
Wow. That's a dangerous game, Pip.
He's getting brave, man.
He sure is. He is getting brave. So let's go back to the start of that passage. Pippin and Merry sit up. They think they're clear because the guard's left with Uglúk, but then, yeah, Grishnákh. Yeah, and he's pawing at them.
He's pawing at him, groping at him.
Unwanted touch. No, please don't do this.
This is awful.
Terribly uncomfortable.
And then, of course, he talks to him, as only an orc can,
Oh, yeah.
Nice rest. And, kind of pointing out, like, look, and he's not wrong about this. Like, you're in a bind. You've got orcs on one side, men on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Here you are stuck in the middle with me. And then he says, don't meddle in affairs that are too big for you.
Yeah. Too late now, but yeah, you shouldn't have.
Little people shouldn't meddle. Yeah.
That's right. And as he continues to paw, it kind of comes into Pippin's mind that Grishnákh knows about the ring and he is looking for it while the opportunity is there. And he's very observant to pick up on this, and he fears it rightly. Cold fear was in Pippin's heart, but he knows, he knows what the lust for the ring can do. So there's a good reason for him to be afraid.
Yeah, there is. But he also knows he can capitalize on it as well. And that's the important thing, is that he actually is able to act despite his fear.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. Didn't we discuss before that Sauron only told his most trusted lieutenants about the ring?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he wouldn't have been telling all of them.
Right. And I think we thought, it's probably just the Nazgul, but obviously some of his chief captains,
or at least rumor has gotten out.
Or, maybe Grishnákh was, one of his maybe he was a really high-ranking orc,
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we know that, well, as we'll talk about here, the fact that he recognizes the term Gollum suggests something very interesting. Yeah. How would he know about Gollum? He must have been in Barad-dûr.
Gollum, and to recognize my precious.
Yeah, to recognize my precious and the Gollum sound. He must have been in Barad-dûr when Sméagol was interrogated. And by interrogated, I mean tortured.
Right.
I mean, at first he pretends not to know what he's talking about. Like, find what? I'm not looking for anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But, oh boy. Yeah. So I think you may be right. Grishnákh may be a very, high-ranking orc, somebody that Sauron trusts, or that, maybe one of the top Nazgul trusts. I
think so. And, that's where I left off on my passage. But, in the bit we're not going to read, we see that the Gollum bit kind of clues Merry in, presumably, into what's going on. And so Merry jumps in on it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, offers an opportunity. Do you want it? And what would you do for it?
Oh, man.
And then Pippin just comes right out and says, look, untie us or we're not going to tell you anything.
That's right. That is the ultimatum. You must untie us or nothing else comes. Nothing else comes out of our mouths.
It's brilliant. It is bold.
It is very bold.
It is clever.
Mm-hmm.
This is Pippin at his best.
This is. Yeah, no doubt. This is Pippin being sharp, observant, courageous. Yeah, all of those things.
Yep.
And that's where I'm going to pick up. Grishnákh, frankly, is having none of this. He's got an opinion here, and we're about to hear it.
"My dear tender little fools," hissed Grishnákh, "everything you have and everything you know will be got out of you in due time. Everything. You'll wish there was more that you could tell to satisfy the questioner. Indeed you will, quite soon. We shan't hurry the enquiry. Oh dear no, what do you think you've been kept alive for? My dear little fellows, please believe me when I say that it was not out of kindness. That's not even one of Uglúk's faults."
I find it quite easy to believe. said Mary. "But you haven't got your prey home yet, and it doesn't seem to be going your way whatever happens. If we come to Isengard, it won't be the great Grishnákh that benefits. Saruman will take all that he can find. If you want anything for yourself, now's the time to do a deal." Grishnákh began to lose his temper. The name of Saruman seemed specially to enrage him. Time was passing, and the disturbance was dying down. Uglúk or the Isengarders might return at any minute.
"Have you got it, either of you?"
he snarled. Got him, said Pippin. "Untie our legs," said Mary. They felt the orc's arms trembling violently.
"Curse you, you filthy little vermin," he hissed. "Untie your legs? I'll untie every string in your bodies. Do you think I can't search you to the bones? Search you. I'll cut you both to quivering shreds. I don't need the help of your legs to get you away and have you all to myself."
Yeah,
Oh, man.
I think maybe they pushed this a little too far.
Maybe. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yes, we will. We will. Oh, man.
Grishnákh, like you said, having none of it, he's calling their bluff. Like, look,
oh, yeah.
Everything you have and everything you know will be taken from you.
Yeah.
You'll wish that you could say something else to satisfy. The questioner. Who's the questioner? Is that Sauron? Or is
That's got to be Sauron, or one of the Chief Nazgul, or maybe even the mouth of Sauron, perhaps, or some other trusted lieutenant. Yeah.
I wondered that. Although, since Sauron himself, questioned Gollum, I'm making air quotes when I say he questioned Gollum.
Yeah. So, Gollum, where were you on the night of... Yeah, no, that wasn't it. It was... Let me torture you, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, Grishnákh is like, look, you've got no bargaining chip here.
None.
But Mary actually says, no, we might. Obviously, he's regaining his wits. He's playing into what Pippin's doing here, and he points out what's frankly obvious. Look, the way we're headed, Saruman is going to take it.
Yeah, not the great Grishnákh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that did it. That did it. Remember I said he might have overplayed his hand? It kind of makes me think of Melkor at the door of Formenos.
Yes.
He's getting to Feanor, and then he says, "And don't think for a minute the Silmarils will be safe here." And Feanor's like, "Oh, now I see right through you."
Right.
At this point, Grishnákh is like, "Okay, you have overplayed your hand. You're in serious trouble now." Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this enrages him. And
oh, yeah.
It's an amazing moment.
It is.
Grishnákh asks directly,
do you have it, right?
Gets no answer except for the Gollum. It's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mary's just like, look, untie our legs.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk to you until that happens. And Grishnákh's like,
oof.
I'll just untie the whole of you, like your entire bodies. I don't need this. I don't need your playing games. I can just rip you to shreds and find the ring if it's on your bodies. And if it's not, oh well.
Oh well. I had fun ripping two hobbits to shreds.
Right, you vermin. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I shred you, just cut you both to shreds. Ah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, Merry and Pippin they're great.
They are brave.
They just play it up so much. And this is dangerous. This is really dangerous.
This is right at the very edge.
Let's not forget, we know how the story continues from here. We know what ends up happening. Let's pretend we don't. This is really dangerous for them.
Oh, yeah.
And this could be it.
If it weren't for a couple of tiny little things that happened, they would be killed in just a few moments. Yeah.
Yep. And so after the passage you read, we see that Grishnákh seizes them, carries them away, hands over their mouths, silently moving.
Right.
He's doing it. He's taking them away.
I'm done with you. I don't want to hear your words anymore. I'm going to kill you.
I am going to find the ring on you if you have it. And if not,
I will rip you apart. He goes a dozen yards or so, and the tension just continues to build. And that is where I'm going to have you pick up.
All right. After going a dozen yards, he halted, peering and listening. Nothing could be seen or heard. He crept slowly on, bent almost double. Then he squatted and listened again. Then he stood up, as if to risk a sudden dash. At that very moment, the dark form of a rider loomed up right in front of him. A horse snorted and reared. A man called out. Grishnákh flung himself on the ground flat, dragging the hobbits under him. Then he drew his sword. No doubt he meant to kill his captives rather than allow them to escape or to be rescued. But it was his undoing. The sword rang faintly and glinted a little in the light of the fire away to his left. An arrow came whistling out of the gloom. It was aimed with skill, or guided by fate, and it pierced his right hand. He dropped the sword and shrieked. There was a quick beat of hoofs, and even as Grishnákh leaped up and ran, he was ridden down and a spear passed through him. He gave a hideous, shivering cry and lay still. The hobbits remained flat on the ground as Grishnákh had left them. Another horseman came riding swiftly to his comrade's aid. Whether because of some special keenness of sight, or because of some other sense, the horse lifted and sprang lightly over them, but its rider did not see them, lying covered in their elven cloaks, too crushed for the moment, and too afraid to move.
Wow. You realize if they had not been carried away by Grishnákh, I mean, all of this is another example of every single event working together to get this working. Because if they aren't carried away by Grishnákh to be killed, then they're in the midst of the orcs when the attack will later come, and they would undoubtedly have been killed.
Absolutely.
But they came within a hair's breadth of getting killed here. So, the horse rears, the man yells out, and he is about to kill them rather than allow them to be rescued, of course. But just pulling that sword, just that sort of, the sound of the sword coming out of the scabbard, and the glint of light off the blade is enough. Wow.
Yeah.
His hand is shot, and of course he shrieks from being shot in the hand, understandably. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Rohirrim, they see well in the dark.
They do.
And then there's also this idea that maybe it was guided by fate.
I love that.
And it sure seems like it could have been. I mean, this is a catastrophic moment for the hobbits, like you said.
It is.
To get them away from the battle and for them to be not exactly rescued, but for them to have been, for Grishnákh to be shot at just this moment. Yeah, they're freed. I mean, that's what does it. I mean, that shot through the hand is enough for the rest of it. The spear then runs through Grishnákh.
Shot through the hand, guided by fate.
Oh, man. Rider, you give love a bad name.
Oh, man. Sorry. Not sorry.
Yeah, no, please don't be. So, Grishnákh is done.
Yeah.
And the horses just jump over Merry and Pippin. The riders don't see them, though.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I really do think that guided by fate is what's going on here. I mean, we do see what happens after Merry and Pippin escape. And what's the phrase later on? The avalanche they unleash?
Yes. Yeah, the pebbles and then the avalanche, yes.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Kosh's comment about the avalanche has started. It is too late for the pebbles to vote. Yeah.
I love that. Man, I missed that show. I need to get back and watch that one of these days.
Yep.
Well, before we see whether Merry and Pippin can avoid being mistaken for mini orcs, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com, as we've made some improvements.
We still have all the good stuff there. Show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, as well as our online storefront, where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have there is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, so thank you for your support. I doubt Merry and Pippin are going to light any candles for Grishnákh now, but if they did, I hope they'd be mythology candles.
I'd hope so, too. And we're pleased to welcome back Mythology Candles to the PPP. Mythology Candles allows you to create more immersive experiences in everyday life with their fantasy-inspired candles.
Their Tale-inspired collection lets you step right into Middle-earth with scents like The Ranger, which smells like war-beaten leather and trampled leaves. And then they have atmospheric scents like Bearded Tree and Wizard's Pipeweed, along with fun ones that, and I know you have this one, like Double Breakfast, which smells like maple pancakes, all aiming to bring the story right into your home.
It absolutely makes my mouth water. It's fantastic.
Oh, man.
Seriously.
I get that one.
Yeah. They also have a range of fantasy-inspired scents like The Alchemist, which smells like stepping into an old alchemy lab.
That sounds so cool.
It does, I know. And my favorite idea yet, Dwarven Forge, which smells like you're actually in a dwarven mine. And if you're also a fan of C.S. Lewis, check out their new winter collection. It's inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, and yes, there is a Turkish delight scent.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Edmund's going to want a bunch of those.
Yes,
I bet he's going to order 50 of those.
It's not going to end well, but...
No, it never will. So, Mythology Candles are handmade with vegan, eco-friendly coconut wax, crackling wooden wicks, and natural fragrances that are designed to instantly transport you to another realm. So if you're a fan of Tolkien, RPGs, or historic fantasy, check out Mythology Candles.
And if you're just looking for a little something extra to, I don't know, set the right atmosphere for watching a movie, reading a book, or gaming, they really help set the scene.
Yeah.
And if you place a $50 order, you'll automatically get a free 2-ounce candle. No coupon code needed.
Mm-hmm.
Head to their website at mythology, spelled with an I-E instead of a Y, candles.com.
That's MYTHOLOGIE candles.com. So now let's go ahead and get back and see if Merry and Pippin can escape now that they're outside of the circle. I'm going to go ahead and pick up right where you left off.
All right.
At last Merry stirred and whispered softly, "So far, so good. But how are we to avoid being spitted?" The answer came almost immediately. The cries of Grishnákh had roused the orcs. From the yells and screeches that came from the knoll, the hobbits guessed that their disappearance had been discovered. Uglúk was probably knocking off a few more heads. Then, suddenly, the answering cries of orc voices came from the right, outside the circle of watchfires, from the direction of the forest and the mountains. Mauhur had apparently arrived and was attacking the besiegers. There was the sound of galloping horses. The riders were drawing in their ring close round the knoll, risking the orc arrows so as to prevent any sortie, while a company rode off to deal with the newcomers. Suddenly, Merry and Pippin realized that without moving, they were now outside the circle. There was nothing between them and escape. "Now," said Merry, "if only we had our legs and hands free, we might get away. But I can't touch the knots and I can't bite them." "No need to try," said Pippin. "I was going to tell you. I've managed to free my hands. These loops are only left for show. You'd better have a bit of lembas first." He slipped the cords off his wrists and fished out a packet. The cakes were broken, but good, still in their leaf wrappings. The hobbits each ate 2 or 3 pieces. The taste brought back to them the memory of fair faces and laughter and wholesome food in quiet days now far away. For a while, they ate thoughtfully, sitting in the dark, heedless of the cries and sounds of battle nearby. And I'm going to stop right there because I love the way that line wraps it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful place to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't start out too well. Because at first, after Grishnákh falls, I mean, the first thing they hear is orc cries.
Oh, yeah.
They realize
they know.
The noise that Grishnákh had made had roused the other orcs, and they realize that, they've been noticed. Their disappearance has been noticed.
Which means they're going to be being searched for pretty soon, yeah.
Right. But the timing is right.
Yeah.
The orc reinforcements have arrived and are attacking.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's when the riders draw the ring in tighter. So that leaves a portion of their number to head off and deal with this set of reinforcements.
Yeah.
But that means that Merry and Pippin realize they're outside the circle, so they're free except for their legs and hands, and the fact they have no nutrition. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Except for that little bit. Oh, but wait. Pippin remembers.
But wait, there's more. Order now,
Right.
and we'll include a second batch of lembas.
There you go.
Yeah.
And this is a brilliant moment for him again, Pippin.
Is.
This is such a great chapter for Pippin. Such a triumphant moment when he remembers the lembas.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have it, and they're refreshed. I love this.
Yeah.
Where we ended that one, where it's like they're getting recovery, escape, and consolation.
That's exactly what I was thinking is recovery and escape. Well, they've literally escaped, not by moving themselves, but they have gotten outside of the circle. But yeah, definitely recovery and consolation. That line about fair faces and laughter and wholesome food in quiet days, man, doesn't that just make your heart sing?
Yeah, it does.
That is just a wonderful line. I love it. And it's what enabled them to eat literally heedless of the battle.
And again, this is just like such a Hobbit moment, right? They're able to just enjoy each other's company, the memory of better times, enjoy some food while this horrible thing is going on nearby.
I think most Hobbit moments of joy somehow seem to revolve around food.
Some sort of food, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now we're going to get to their first taste of freedom, a couple paragraphs from here, and I'm going to go ahead and have you pick up.
All right. They crawled. The turf was deep and yielding, and that helped them, but it seemed a long, slow business. They gave the watchfire a wide berth and wormed their way forward bit by bit until they came to the edge of the river, gurgling away in the black shadows under its deep banks. Then they looked back. The sounds had died away. Evidently, Mauhur and his lads had been killed or driven off. The riders had returned to their silent, ominous vigil. It would not last very much longer. Already the night was old. In the east, which had remained unclouded, the sky was beginning to grow pale. "We must get under cover," said Pippin, "or we shall be seen. It will not be any comfort to us if these riders discover that we are not orcs after we are dead." He got up and stamped his feet. "Those cords have cut me like wires, but my feet are getting warm again. I could stagger on now. What about you, Mary?" Mary got up. "Yes," he said, "I can manage it. Lembas does put heart into you. A more wholesome sort of feeling, too, than the heat of that orc draft. I wonder what it was made of. Better not to know, I expect. Let's get a drink of water to wash away the thought of it." "Not here. The banks are too steep," said Pippin. "Forward now." They turned and walked side by side, slowly along the line of the river. Behind them the light grew in the east. As they walked, they compared notes, talking lightly in hobbit fashion of the things that had happened since their capture. No listener would have guessed from their words that they had suffered cruelly and been in dire peril, going without hope towards torment and death, or that even now, as they knew well, they had little chance of ever finding friend or safety again.
Oh, man, that just gets me.
Yeah,
So hobbity, so
it is.
resilient. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. I do know we need to get back to the beginning of your passage. So that's where Pippin frees them the rest of the way, and they start to, at the very beginning, wisely crawl to freedom.
Yeah. And I can't help but think of soldiers crawling across no man's land here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
the idea of them being trapped between enemies and allies, but,
Mm-hmm.
well, their allies don't know who they are. They don't even know their allies are allies.
Right.
And a stray attack from either side could kill them.
Mm-hmm. Keep your heads down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Very no man's land there for me. They're crawling across deep turf. They're giving a wide berth to the fire. They're close to the river.
Right.
And they look back and see that the riders are still on that vigil, but
yeah.
dawn is coming.
Oh, they know the attack's going to happen very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pippin thinks we need to find a place to hide because, honestly, they're going to think we're orcs. At least they'll think we're orcs until it's too late.
Right.
So can we walk or do we have to keep crawling? And the answer is yes.
Yeah. And Mary remarks that, look, Lembas is, giving me some strength, putting heart into me.
Yeah.
And it's a more wholesome kind of strength than the orc draft is.
Yeah.
Which is a low bar.
I was about to say that. Yeah. He does observe, I wonder what it's made out of. Best not to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably best not to know. Yeah, it's a very good
Maybe it's
point.
not whiskey. I don't know. If it is whiskey, it's definitely not like a 25-year-old single malt scotch. It's like some kind of nasty moonshine with turpentine in it or something.
It's terrible. Yeah, no doubt about that. So they're walking alongside the river as the sun comes up, and that's where we get that beautiful closing part of that paragraph. They're comparing notes, they're talking about their experiences, but they're talking about it lightly in Hobbit fashion.
Yeah. No listener would have guessed what they've been through.
Or what they're facing even. That even now, as they knew well, they had little chance.
That's true, yeah. Because they've escaped from certain death to who knows what.
To probable death eventually.
Right,
by themselves.
They don't know exactly where they are. They don't know how they're going to get home.
No. They don't even know if anybody else is still alive.
Right. Amazing moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing moment. And then after the end of that passage, we get, Mary compliments Pippin for his resourcefulness and his cleverness here.
Right.
We're not reading this line, but I do love, you will get almost a chapter in old Bilbo's book if ever I get a chance to report to him. Yeah, he will get almost a chapter, actually.
Pretty much this chapter,
It's this one, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So a little frame narrative action there.
Yeah.
And then Mary acknowledges, like, look, I've got my work cut out for me if I'm going to catch up to you, but...
I love it. Mm-hmm.
But hey, I was spending my time in Rivendell quite a bit better than you were, and I know where we are.
That's right.
So we get, more of that fun ribbing between the two. There's, again, hobbitishness, that fellowship is back, and they're just kind of playing with each other.
Yeah, they really are. So then, Mary does lay out the land a little bit. Oh, we're on the Entwash. Those are the Misty Mountains. That's Fangorn Forest. Pippin reminds him that we've been warned against Fangorn. But, that's okay. You're really smart, so you undoubtedly will remember that, right? Right?
And Mary's like, yeah, of course I remember. But, hey, it's going to be better than the battle. So,
well, right. The alternative to being in this forest that we've been told is a scary place is to go back to that battle and probably be mistaken for orcs and killed.
Yeah, not going to end well.
No.
So let's try the forest.
Let's try.
We made it through one creepy forest already.
That's right. I mean, we have no idea whether this one's any bigger or any smaller. We have no idea if there's, an old man Willow here or not. There's probably no Tom, but, that's all right.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and pick up a paragraph later as we get the charge of the Rohirrim to wrap up the chapter. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Far over the great river and the brown lands, leagues upon gray leagues away, the dawn came, red as flame. Loud rang the hunting horns to greet it. The riders of Rohan sprang suddenly to life. Horn answered horn again. Merry and Pippin heard, clear in the cold air, the neighing of war horses and the sudden singing of many men. The sun's limb was lifted, an arc of fire above the margin of the world. Then, with a great cry, the riders charged from the east. The red light gleamed on mail and spear. The orcs yelled and shot all the arrows that remained to them. The hobbits saw several horsemen fall, but their line held on up the hill and over it, and wheeled round and charged again. Most of the raiders that were left alive then broke and fled, this way and that, pursued one by one to the death. But one band, holding together in a black wedge, drove forward resolutely in the direction of the forest. Straight up the slope they charged towards the watchers. Now they were drawing near, and it seemed certain that they would escape. They had already hewn down 3 riders that barred their way. "We have watched too long," said Merry. "There's Uglúk. I don't want to meet him again." The hobbits turned and fled deep into the shadows of the wood. So it was that they did not see the last stand when Uglúk was overtaken and brought to bay at the very edge of Fangorn. There he was slain at last by Éomer, the 3rd Marshal of the Mark, who dismounted and fought him sword to sword. And over the wide fields the keen-eyed riders hunted down the few orcs that had escaped and still had strength to fly. Then, when they had laid their fallen comrades in a mound and had sung their praises, the riders made a great fire and scattered the ashes of their enemies. So ended the raid, and no news of it came ever back, either to Mordor or to Isengard. But the smoke of the burning rose high to heaven and was seen by many watchful eyes.
That's just like a sigh of relief moment for the end of this very tense chapter.
Yeah,
such a great
absolutely.
way to end it.
It is. I love that description. It's just, the rising of the sun and then the horns blowing, and it presages the attack of the Rohirrim at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields.
Yeah.
The sun comes up, right? That's when the cock crows, and then you get the horns, and then the charge. And obviously, this is a much smaller scale charge. This is 120 riders versus 10,000 or something along those lines?
Thousands.
Thousands, certainly. So, this is something else. What a great moment this is. Yeah.
It is. It is a great moment. And actually, there's another great moment that, because we can't read the whole thing, right? We have to skip a little bit. We actually skipped this one paragraph before you started reading the description of their first steps into the forest, right?
Yes.
We get that, the forest is old beyond guessing,
Mm-hmm.
and Merry and Pippin are described as, or they're compared to, I guess I should say, little furtive figures that in the dim light look like elf children in the deeps of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this wonderful image of elves in the first age, peering out of the wild wood, looking at their first dawn.
Yeah.
We're going to have more on this in the bag tonight, which is
we will.
Partly why we skipped over it here, but
right,
it's such a great passage.
It really is. And then, of course, the great description of the dawn and the riders themselves. Oh, such a rich passage of description.
Oh man, we've got the singing of all these men. We've got the arc of the sun.
Right, and then the charge itself and the defeat of the orcs. But not before one band found themselves driving towards the forest. They'd already slayed 3 more riders. The hobbits turn around and run because they certainly don't want anything to do with this. And that's when you get that last stand, Uglúk, slain by Éomer. And there's one little interesting tidbit here. I know that in the first edition of Lord of the Rings, Hammond and Skull point out that Éomer's title was given as 3rd Marshal of Rohan rather than 3rd Marshal of the Mark. Now, Tolkien changed that in the 2nd edition, actually the second printing of the 2nd edition in 1967. Tolkien wrote in one of his Czech copies that Rohan was not the name of the country used by the Rohirrim themselves, Interestingly, Hammond and Skull got this little tidbit from Christopher Tolkien directly, and as they thank him, so do we thank him and Hammond and Skull for obtaining that insight.
There you go. That's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I know that the Rohirrim never call it Rohan.
No,
but
no, and they don't call themselves the Rohirrim, no.
Right. I didn't realize that an early edition had that in there. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the last scene of the chapter is the Rohirrim, kind of singing the praises of their fallen comrades.
Yeah, yeah.
Building a mound.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about both of these before, right? That they're not people who write things down. There are people who sing.
Who sing
and
things.
then
That's
there are
right.
the burial traditions of the mounds. Yeah.
Right. And then they made a great fire and scattered the ashes of their enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want to say about this is just to go back to the scheme for a little tidbit on the timeline and some of Tolkien's notes on it. The scheme says that on February 29th, riders attack orcs at sunrise, about 7 a.m. It takes about 3 hours to round up fugitives. They spend remainder of day in burning bodies of orcs and burying their own dead. They rest on battlefield that night.
A well-earned rest, that's for sure. Well, the riders made a great fire and scattered the ashes of their enemies. I can assure you that Barliman has not scattered the ashes of your letters. So we'll be digging into Barliman's bag in a minute. But even when that's done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our awesome listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you're going to find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
Now, we also have some really good discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us, and please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content like postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the fellowship of the podcast. Now, let's see what messages Barliman's brought us. Sean.
Sure thing. Well, to start, Zachary P. in Canada writes in, "There is an intriguing passage that puzzled me for many days, and the internet research was to no avail. Hopefully you can aid me when you get there. This is the passage, when Merry and Pippin make their way into Fangorn Forest. Out of the shadows the hobbits peeped, gazing back down the slope, little furtive figures that in the dim light looked like elf children in the deeps of time, peering out of the wild wood in wonder at their first dawn. I have also remarked that there seems to be some unorthodox capital letters spread within. Tolkien does not capitalize things on purpose, so that increases my confusion. I think what he means is that Tolkien doesn't capitalize things by accident, since we've seen throughout the Legendarium examples of very careful capitalization. Given that assumption, Alan, what are your thoughts here? What's up with the capitals?
Well, Tolkien doesn't throw capitals around willy-nilly, that's for sure.
True.
He capitalizes many forests, like the Old Forest, Fangorn Forest, and so on. So it's not a surprise that Wildwood is capitalized, but I think the capitalized dawn is what's significant here. I think he's calling back to the first dawn on Arda, way back in the First Age. The use of elf children, I see that as referencing the innocence, maybe even a bit of the naivete of the hobbits. I mean, imagine a pair of young elf children, Avari, of course, since probably not very many exiled Noldor kiddos were on that trip across the Helcaraxa.
Probably not.
And Feanor certainly wouldn't have brought them over on the boats because they wouldn't have been of much help. So this pair of young elf children in the woods of Beleriand somewhere, having lived all their lives in starlight, all of a sudden seeing this massive ball of fire on the horizon, the first dawn. Everything changes for them right now. Well, this is where things begin to change radically for Merry and Pippin as well. So that's kind of where I see it. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right, actually, especially on your take on the capitalization of dawn. I mean, it definitely seems like he's evoking the first dawn, and he's likening it in its mythic quality to the mythic nature of this stage of Merry and Pippin's journey. Absolutely, like you said.
Yeah.
I think Wildwood is significant as well, actually. I think it's capitalized for the same reason. Just as those elf children long ago were looking out at the first dawn, they were looking out of the Wildwood. You know, it was most likely the only one they'd ever been in.
Oh,
This is near the beginning of Arda's history, so it might have been, remember, We know how Fangorn and all the way up to the Old Forest and Eriador, it was just one big forest. I mean, I
That's
think
right.
there's the idea that there was just one great big wild wood, and certainly the only one that the elf children had ever been in, kind of like the hill or the shire.
Sure.
So I kind of think that the wild wood with capital W's is probably more a reference to the fact that it's like the only one the elf children have ever known, or maybe the only one that exists, rather than being a proper noun like the Old Forest.
That's fair.
But I think that in both cases, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing in terms of what the point of it is. I think the capitalization serves really to mark that the hobbits are on a kind of mythical journey. And like you said, this is where everything changes for them. It's like, as Obi-Wan Kenobi might say, they've taken their first steps into a larger world.
Ah, nice.
Thank you.
I like that. Well, we've got time for one more question, and it is a good one. Chad in Texas, that's right, that Chad in Texas, asks us to provide some insight. He points out, periodically, PPP fans ask Alan and Sean's opinion on the best reading order, not of Tolkien's books, but the books that help you better understand Tolkien's books. Not that ordering them ranks them or discounts their worth in any way, but rather the most efficient reading order. So he wants us to kind of list how we would read the non-Tolkien books about Tolkien.
Wow. Thanks, Chad. That is a really great question and a very hard one to answer.
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, I would start with Carpenter's biography. I mean, I think that is clearly, I mean, that's the foundation for every biographical work that came after it.
Right.
In the sense that every biography is either built on Carpenter's work or is a response to it, sometimes correcting things that Carpenter didn't get quite right. So, yeah, start with the Carpenter biography, then probably go to John Garth's Tolkien and the Great War and Tolkien at Exeter College, which is a shorter read. It's something you can get directly from his website, but it fills in some really good biographical bits. Then I would say, I know you've read the Edwards biography, which I haven't read, so I don't know.
I've not completed it. I'm still about halfway through it, but yeah.
Okay, but I will say that Joseph LeConte's A Hobbit, A Wardrobe, and a Great War, I think that's actually a pretty good companion biography. It doesn't offer a lot that's new on Tolkien himself. I think if you've read Carpenter and Garth, I think you probably know everything it has to say about Tolkien, but it does have some really good insight on Tolkien in context to the war and also in context to C.S. Lewis, especially, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I'd say those, and then I'd probably go on to Ring of Words by Gilliver Marshall and Weiner.
Yeah.
Even though that's more of a linguistic work, because it's about Tolkien's time at the Oxford English Dictionary and the words he wrote entries for. But there is some biographical stuff in there because it talks about, his time working for the OED. So I think that's actually really good stuff.
Fair.
After that, so that's probably the critical biographies. I think at that point, I'd probably go on to Tom Shippey. And I think both Author of the Century and Road to Middle-earth are good transitions from the biography to like the more critical work. I kind of think you probably should read Author of the Century first because there's some similar ground covered between the two books, but I think Author of the Century is just a bit more accessible.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So from there to Road to Middle-earth maybe, and then go to Verlin Flieger's Splintered Light, which is like the foundational work on the Silmarillion, and probably Corey Olsen's exploring J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, because that is like the foundational work on The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And I think, Splintered Light and Road to Middle-earth especially were both published right near the start of the release of the History of Middle-earth volumes. So I think you can very easily read those without having any knowledge of History of Middle-earth. But after you read all those, then probably time to dive into History of Middle-earth, honestly, if you haven't already.
Yeah, probably.
Technically, that's books by Tolkien himself or by Christopher Tolkien, but still, I think they tell you a lot about Tolkien's work from the outside. And so I think that's probably the way I'd go about it. That ought to keep you busy for a while.
Oh, that'll definitely keep you busy for a while. I, too, would start with Carpenter's biography. I know that there are more detailed biographies. Both Garth and Edwards come to mind, but Carpenter is a good start to learning about Tolkien. And like you said, it really is sort of foundational, and the others are all either built on it or responses to it. Then I would add On Fairy Stories, followed by Beowulf, The Monsters, and the Critics. Now, I know those are Tolkien's books, but they are also books that help you better understand Tolkien. So I think they fit.
I think so. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah. Then when you're reading The Lord of the Rings, I would say you need to be reading Hammond and Skull's Reader's Companion. It's an absolute must. Now, you can't read it like a story. It's not something you just open up and start to read. You use it as a guide when you're reading The Lord of the Rings. But if you read no other book to help you understand The Lord of the Rings, that's the one.
Yeah.
As for the other books, I don't know that I have an order. I like what you said, and that's actually a really good order. And I could just copy your answer, to be honest. But my initial thought was that I don't have a particular order because the books you're going to be interested in after that are based on your interest in the text. Maybe you're somebody who's really interested in the manuscript history, in which case you're going to dive into the history of Middle-earth. Maybe that's not what interests you, and you're more interested in philosophical or thematic material and sort of those mind-opening aha moments, in which case you're going to start reading some of the Flieger works.
Yeah, she's got a lot of those.
Yeah. On the other hand, maybe you just can't get Shippy's voice out of your head, and you read Author of the Century or Road to Middle-earth. Maybe you just really love The Hobbit. You love the themes of The Hobbit and the way The Hobbit is written in comparison to some of the more, heavy works. Well, then I would say you need to start with exploring The Hobbit from Corey Olsen or Anderson's Annotated Hobbit. Or maybe you like The Hobbit, but you're really into manuscript history, so then you want to get into Ratler's History of the Hobbit. So I don't have an order. It's just going to depend on what areas of Tolkien you want to dive into after you've read Carpenter, On Fairy Stories, Beowulf, the Monsters, and the Critics.
So go not to the podcast host for counsel because they'll say all kinds of different things.
We'll kind of just point to a bunch of books and go read them all.
Yeah, you really should. I can't believe I forgot about Anderson's Annotated Hobbit. That's so great.
Man.
I mean,
it really
that's like the Hammond and Skull Reader's Companion for the Hobbit.
It is.
It's like all those annotations. Yeah,
it's brilliant. It helped us in a huge way for season 2. It was the kind of thing that would lead us down, lovely little paths of finding other things, because he would mention something like, oh, let me dig into that. And wow, brought things to life. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony podcast. We're going to be celebrating the holidays with our families over the next couple of weeks, but please be sure to join us again in 3 weeks when we will be revisiting the topic of race in Tolkien. Now, please give episode 114 a listen between now and then to get ready for this special conversation.
Yeah, for several months we've been talking about the fact that we want to bring in some people of color who can share their experiences with the text and with the fandom in a way that Alan and I frankly just can't. And we're really looking forward to hearing from them. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited to be having them on, and I hope folks will enjoy it. In the meantime, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons at the Kierdance Contribution tier. That's DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut. Thank you all so much for your support.
Truly, it is breathtaking to me just how many names are on that list and how it continues to grow. We are so grateful to each and every one of you.
Yeah.
Now, we also want to thank the team that helps make the show better. Our research assistants, along with our barlowman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all. Now, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, the ashes of your enemies. Actually, no, on second thought, please don't. To Barlowman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Barlowman's a lot more reliable these days, but we do get an awful lot of mail. So please be patient. We'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
And as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.